the leaders in Wales here, right? When it comes to working with people, right? Understanding when it's not just about intervention, but really where prevention sits. And before that, where does education sit? It's about making Wales a healthier society, right? And so when I saw this, caring for people and keeping people well, that really stood out to me, because what I'm going to do now is I'll hopefully show you how we've done it in a different industry. And I believe there's a number of synergies in there, okay? But interestingly, not a lot of people know that by the age of 21, I had no GCSEs, no A-levels, and I was working on a paper mill up in the northern parts of South Africa. And so when I was about 17, 18, right, I'd get up in the morning, get on the back of a pickup, we'd go up into the mountains, sit on top of a ridge, and go climb up on pylons. And so, okay, how do we connect the cables? Absolutely loved it as a young kid. But the bit that really stood out for me, so again, I can talk about that, about how I ended up there, or how from the age of 21, no GCSEs, no A-levels, living out in the northern parts of South Africa, literally 3 years later, I qualified with an honors degree in business management in England. How? Or even better, 2 years after that, I ran out in front of 72,000 people in the Stade de France, in the Six Nations, running out in red, not in green. I still remember sitting in a neurologist's room where he said, look, we found something in your blood. I'm going to try and explain to you what Isaac syndrome is, neuromyotonia. Right? And I remember him telling me, look, unfortunately, I have to break the news to you, you'll not play rugby again. And then he said to me, look, he didn't want to scare me, but he wanted to be very real with me, and I asked him to be. I said to him, look, can you give me examples of other people who may have this condition? So I got a bit of a reference point. And he said, look, I don't want to do that. I don't want to give you those sort of expectations. Some people really struggle with the condition to the point where physically they cannot be active at all. So I know from an identity point of view, I was facing a significant shift. Change was being forced on me. And you know what? I excelled through that change. I took that wave that fell on top of me, used the energy of that, and really helped to kick me onto it. Because you see, for me, rugby was what I did. It's not who I am. You know, I told you guys at the start of this, I find that human behavior, that personal side, fascinating. And more important than all of those things, I kept asking myself a question. What's working? What's going right now? Because here's the thing, if you don't know why things work when they do, you don't know how to fix them when they don't. As I made that progression going from South Africa into here, there was a number of life lessons that I took with me. And I just stayed up focused on those. And that's kind of what I want to do with you guys, because the reality is, you guys are facing this change process. Right? And there will be times when there's a lot of energy around it, and there'll be times where there's setbacks. And what do we do in those moments of setback? I had to make the decision. Are we going to be present? Or are we going to be engaged? And I wanted to be the type of person who's engaged, not just present. But hopefully this graph will just give you a little bit of an explanation. When I wrote my thesis, I recognized that behavioral economics tells us that performance, individual performance, is dictated by 3 parameters. Physically, having the ability to do the job, having the competency, so having the technical and tactical knowledge to do the job. And the third part of it is wanting to do the job or the task. When we help rebuild them when they've suffered a severe injury, right? We start building their identity back from who they are towards what they can do. So if better people make better players, do better people make better managers, better accountants, better doctors. Players who were engaged with off-field activities, developing themselves as an individual, as a person, they got selected more often, they had a longer tenure at the club, and they had a longer tenure at the game. Better people make better everythings. When we look at our organizations, especially 21st century organizations, right, when we experience a bit of a setback, we refer to what we are competent in, what we have the ability to do. But the question that I have for you, isn't that what we do with our well-being sometimes? Right? With our relationships, with our finances, with our performance. I brought all the staff together and I said, right, I need to know where's north. What are we aiming for? Where are we going? Because you see, we're not limited by what we know. We're limited by what we believe is achievable. Individually and collectively. That's the way human systems work. Right? But there's a challenge. There's a challenge in this because we can walk out of here and go, right, high fives, we're going for this. Come on, everybody up, yeah, come on. And they walk back into the workplace. And there's that bureaucracy. There's the policies, the procedures. the way of doing things. And I mean, you've had the CEO stand here and say, be bold, go for it, change this. Right? So you have the permission to do it. The challenge is, through the 80s and 90s, research tell us that we look towards models that made us very efficient at what we do as organizations. And basically what it says is, if I give you autonomy, you will move up towards chaos. If everybody could just go tomorrow and do whatever you'd like to do, it would be perceived as chaos. And so what we do as organizations through the 80s and the 90s, what we did was we brought in policies and procedures and departments that make us more efficient at what we do. There's a problem with that. You guys already know where I'm going with this, don't you? There's a problem with being sat right here. Chaos theory tells us this is where companies go to die, because they're not adaptable to change. When change comes, when those setbacks came, they can't adapt. It's doing the same things the same way regardless, right? What the research will tell us is actually this is where management sit. And you manage the employee, you manage the member of staff. You lead the person. Think back to that model. That's where inspiration, that's where creativity sits. Because on the edge of chaos sits innovation, sits problem solving. On the edge of chaos sits that boldness that Len was talking about. I mean, you know that there are some people in this room who head up departments, and their day-to-day sits pretty close to this, right? And you know they're some of the best problem solvers. The other thing I need to just highlight here, and Len mentioned it, here, where distrust sits. Because in reality, if I want to go be bold, I need to be trusted. Because if I make a mistake, that's when we learn, right? We learn from mistakes. We don't learn from doing the same thing over and over again. So we need to have the autonomy to go and make mistakes, to go and try things. But we'll never do it when we sit as an organization sat within this efficiency model. As staff, yes, there's an important part that sits here. But people, each of you as an individual, your teams, the cohesion that sits here, it doesn't sit here, it sits on the edge. It sits where creativity and energy sits. And the challenge for you is, you've already been told here today, you have the autonomy. Go. Live on the edge of chaos. Do something different. Inspire each other to think differently. To one like that. Whatever the old way of thinking is, I want it to feel that way. A bit of fun. Having a bit of a laugh at ourselves going, yeah, okay, we've been stuck in our ways. All right? But fine, we all agree we're going to do something a bit different now. Where does North sit for me individually? Where does North sit for my team? And there's a simple way you can look at it from that point of view. And I'm going to ask you guys to actually have a quick conversation on the tables. Right? When you see the E, think about being engaged. You all know somebody in your department or somebody in your life, they're present. They show up, they do what that needs to be done, and they leave. They're in that management zone, right? But are they engaged? I mean, if you were asked as your partner or in your relationship, I mean, I don't want to be present as a dad. I want to be engaged as a dad. That means coming down to my little 2-year-old's level, sitting on the floor and having conversations. I hate saying this, but yeah, getting dressed in a Disney princess dress. Why? Because I'm engaged with her. The other way to look at it is your well-being. That's West. Right? If it's not in you, it cannot come out of you. I guarantee you this. I've seen this in so many industries across all levels of the business, whether it's the frontline workforce or whether we're talking about the senior managers. If you are not well, you cannot expect those around you to be well. We all work with somebody who goes that extra mile. And we all applaud them for it. In rugby, we do this all the time. Right? The guy who's out there doing the extras, all the time you go, well done, well done. Until they burn out. Until they injure themselves by going up. Because then we call them naive for not considering their rest and their recovery. You guys are the leaders of this change program. If it's not in you, it cannot come out of you. And so the question I've got for each of you right now, you don't have to put your hand up, you don't have to say it, right? What are you celebrating right now? What win streak are you celebrating right now from your well-being? Is it, I've gone 8 days in a row by not looking at my phone past 8 p.m.? We know that has an impact on your sleep. We know sleep has an impact on our well-being. Is it the 11, 12 days that you've made sure that you've been purposeful about what you eat and not missing meals? A lot of people think about what we eat. Actually, it's a lot about the meals we miss, which then leads us to eating healthy after. Come on, you guys know this better than anybody else, right? The shift patterns that you guys have to work, the hours, the chaos you have to deal with, you guys know this. So let me ask you, what wins are you celebrating? Len mentioned this as well, right? When you come to South, we need to know what non-optimal looks like. And that means we need to be willing to have difficult conversations with ourselves and with people around us. Because we have to face the things that we don't fix. If you don't have a proactive approach about engaging with the difficult conversations, maybe not initially, eventually it will catch up with you. And I guarantee you, that's where tension becomes conflict. Deal with the tension. Have the courage to stand up to it and to say, stop. We're no longer going to do it this way. We're going to engage with it in a different way. Fix it before you have to face it. What does the next step look like? Because here's the thing, and we do this in sport all the time. We constantly look for the 1%ers, right? And here's why. Because if I take 1% improvement every single day, that gives me 5% improvement over a week. It gives me 20% improvement over a month. Now, could you imagine if every single person in this room was able to improve, amplify this whole cohesion, this whole change strategy by 20% in the next month, and we aligned all of those? Think about what I said before. It's not about what we know. It's about what we believe is achievable. Once you align those 27, you really see what could actually be achievable. That's where impact lies. What can we do to make sure that everybody's engaged? Yes, we may walk out of here and we're all on board. How do we onboard everybody else? Because I don't want presenteeism in the workplace. Everybody focus on absenteeism. There's a lot of people who are present. We need to be there engaged if we're really going to create change.
Table 2 hit a nerve, I think. We discussed emails. Part of the well-being topic and giving time back to people is we're slave to emails, and culture of management can be in lots of places, and the NHS is managers emailing at 11 p.m. and it seemed to be a good thing, not a bad thing.
Well, echoing a lot of the themes already, we did focus on well-being and the importance of looking after ourselves. And if we don't look after ourselves, then how can we really be effective? Heard some good examples of other teams, around the table and what they've done within their teams. But just echoing the last comment really is we need to listen. We need to talk to our teams and ask them what do they need, what do they want, what would help them, and then use that to promote well-being within the team.
Awesome. In high-performance sport, we call that feed forward, where we have small team sessions to discuss an initiative, to discuss a situation that we may be facing, rather than get the feedback afterwards and what we could have done. We still do that, but a lot of the times we're far more purposeful about it in carving out that bit of time to look, here is what we're going to do proactively, having the conversation before the fact. So absolutely great initiative. We've yielded huge results on that from a performance point of view on the field. When you look at the communicators, the Dan Biggers, the Reese Webbs, those key decision makers, a lot of that is based on feed forward. Those sessions come from that. A lot of creativity that comes in that.
So similar themes actually to a number of people in terms of the room. But we talked about we need to stop valuing the wrong things and the wrong behaviour. And one of the examples was we sort of pat ourselves on the back when we work through lunch, or we do our emails at home, etc. So we need to stop doing that. And try and value the right things.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. There's a quote that comes to mind. I can't remember who said it, but it is based on the lines like, I used to be scared of failing at the things that are important to me. Now I'm scared of succeeding at the things that aren't important. I think about that for a moment. I used to be scared of failing at the things that are important to me. Now I'm scared of succeeding in the things that aren't important. And so the point you're making there, absolutely key, is being able to have those difficult conversations with ourselves now. So look, could you guys just imagine for a second, if we took each of the comments that we've just heard in this room, right, aligned them, and we all actively engage with them. We took those things away from me and said, look, that's the 1%ers that lie there. Could you imagine the change? The emails, the difficult conversations, the well-being, celebrating each other's small wins in the other departments. Could you imagine the energy and the change that would really happen? Then we're taking the next step, not just talking about it.